What if I told you that you aren't just living in your reality, but that you are actively writing it, every second of every day, that you have a hidden power to reshape your life, and you've been using it all along. You just might not know it. This isn't science fiction. The strange rules that govern the bizarre world of quantum physics have a startling parallel in our own minds. They reveal that the simple act of paying attention might be the most powerful tool you have for changing your life. Keep watching, because you're about to discover how this powerful effect works, why it's not magic, and how you can use it to reshape your habits, your focus, and your future, starting today. Our journey will take us from the strange, probabilistic world of quantum mechanics right to the center of our own minds. We'll see that on the smallest levels. Reality is a field of potential waiting for an interaction to make it real. And we'll also see in our own psychology that awareness is the most powerful engine for change we have. The bridge between these two worlds is your attention. It is not a passive spotlight shining on a fixed world. It is an active, creative force. By choosing where you place your focus, you are casting a vote for the reality you want to experience. You are quietly rewriting your life, whether you realize it or not. This is not about ignoring your problems. It's about choosing what you empower. Do you empower your fears by constantly observing them? Or do you empower your strengths by focusing on them? Do you live in a reality defined by past mistakes, or one defined by your future potential? The father of quantum theory, Max Planck, once said something that perfectly mirrors this idea. I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. He wasn't saying you can think a brick wall out of existence. He was pointing to a deeper truth. Our entire experience of the world is ultimately processed through consciousness. Our inner world is the starting point for everything we do and everything we become. You have always been the observer, but perhaps you've been an unconscious observer, your attention hijacked by distractions and old programming. The invitation now is to become a conscious observer, to take the lens of your awareness and aim it with purpose. To get this, we have to start small, impossibly small. We have to go to the quantum realm, where everything we think of as solid is really just a shimmering dance of possibility. At that scale, reality doesn't behave the way our everyday intuition expects it to. And the best way to see this in action is with the most famous, most baffling experiment in all of physics, the double-slit experiment. Imagine you're firing tiny particles, like electrons, at a wall. In that wall, there are two narrow slits. Behind it, a screen records where each particle lands. Nothing about this setup seems mysterious at first. It looks like a simple test of cause and effect. Now, if you cover one slit, you get what you'd expect: a single band on the screen, right behind the open slit. Cover the other, you get a band behind that one. Simple, right? This is exactly how solid objects are supposed to behave. But this is where reality takes a sharp left turn. When you open both slits, you'd expect to see two bands. Instead, you get something totally different, a whole series of bands. An interference pattern. This pattern is the signature of waves. It's what you see when two ripples in a pond overlap. This means that each tiny particle, all by itself, is somehow acting like a wave, going through both slits at the same time, and interfering with itself. Instead of choosing a single path, it behaves as if multiple possibilities are all happening at once. At this point, the particle isn't in one single place. It exists as a wave of pure probability. But the strangest part is yet to come. The physicists, just as confused as we are, decided to watch. They put a detector by the slits to see which one each particle actually goes through. The moment they did, everything changed. The interference pattern vanished. Poof! Instead, they saw exactly what they originally expected: two simple bands. The particles stopped behaving like weird waves and started behaving like predictable, solid little bullets. The mere act of measuring erased the field of possibilities. It's as if the particles knew they were being watched. Of course, they don't know anything in a human sense, but their behavior changes the moment measurement enters the system. This is the core of the quantum observer effect. The act of measuring or observing a system fundamentally changes the outcome. Now, this is where a huge misconception was born. For years, some people interpreted this to mean that human consciousness itself was magically collapsing reality. But science has shown this isn't quite right. The observer doesn't have to be a person. In an experiment at the Weizmann Institute of Science, a non-conscious electronic detector did the watching, and they found that the more intensely the detector watched the electrons, the more particle-like they behaved. So, it's not our mind mysteriously reaching out and changing the particle. It's the physical interaction of the measurement device, a laser, a detector. Whatever that disturbs the delicate quantum system and forces it out of that fuzzy wave of potential into a single, definite state. Measurement is not passive, it interferes. The act of measuring its position changes its behavior. The big takeaway here: at the most fundamental level, reality doesn't begin as a fixed fact. It begins as potential. Things exist in a state of undefined possibility until they are measured. Observation forces possibility to become actuality. Hold on to that thought, because we're about to see how this same principle shows up, not just in a lab, but in our own lives. Let's leave the quantum world for a moment and jump back to the 1920s, to a factory in Illinois called the Hawthorne Works. The company had a simple question: how do we make our employees more productive? They decided to run some experiments, starting with the lighting. At the time, this seemed like a straightforward engineering problem: change the environment, improve the output. They brought in a group of workers and cranked up the lights, just as they'd hoped. Productivity went up. Great. But then, they tried dimming the lights, and to their surprise, productivity went up again. They dimmed them all the way down to moonlight levels, and productivity still went up. They returned the lighting to normal, and it shot up once more. In fact, almost any change they made seemed to boost output. No matter what variable they adjusted, the results stayed the same. What on earth was going on? It wasn't the lighting. The workers were more productive simply because someone was paying attention to them. They were part of a study. They felt noticed, and they knew they were being observed. This phenomenon became known as the Hawthorne effect. People change their behavior when they know they're being watched. Awareness itself had entered the system, and behavior reorganized around it. Now, just like in the quantum world, the story is a bit more nuanced. Later analyses showed other things were going on, like the workers feeling valued and enjoying the team spirit. The effect isn't some universal law. Sometimes being watched makes us nervous and we perform worse. But across decades of research, one insight keeps returning: attention alters behavior. Think about it. When your boss is looking over your shoulder, you probably work a little harder. When you know your fitness tracker is counting your steps, you're more likely to take the stairs. When you start tracking your spending in an app, you suddenly become way more conscious of where your money is going. Nothing external is forcing these changes. The only difference is that the behavior has become visible even to yourself. In all these cases, nothing external is forcing you to do anything. The only new ingredient is awareness. The simple act of observation by others, or, even more powerfully, by yourself, interrupts your automatic, unconscious patterns. It forces you to be intentional. You are no longer on autopilot. You are an active participant in your own behavior. The moment a pattern is observed, it can no longer run in the background unchecked. So now we have two seemingly separate ideas. One from the bizarre world of quantum physics, where observing collapses a wave of possibilities into a single reality. And one from a factory floor, where being observed changes human behavior. These two effects don't directly cause each other, but they run on a stunningly similar principle. Together, they give us a powerful metaphor for how you can consciously reshape your life, not as a law of magic, but as a law of attention. Let's start with the quantum analogy. Imagine your future isn't one single, fixed path. Instead, see it as a quantum field of infinite possibilities, all coexisting at once. The reality where you learn that skill, the one where you stay in your comfort zone, the one where you build that business, just like that unobserved particle. These are all just potentials. None of them are guaranteed. None of them are denied. They are simply available. So how does one of them become your actual life? Your awareness. Your focused attention is the measurement device. Whatever you consistently and intentionally focus on is what you collapse from the field of potential into your experienced reality. Not because reality obeys your thoughts, but because your nervous system, perception, and decisions begin to organize around what you attend to. This isn't magical thinking. It's a psychological and neurological process. Your brain has a filtering mechanism called the reticular activating system, or RAS. Think of it like a search engine for your reality. You tell it what's important, and it sifts through the billions of bits of information hitting you every second to show you only what you've tagged as relevant. Attention is how you set the filter. Ever bought a new car and then suddenly started seeing that exact model everywhere? The cars were always there. Your awareness, now tuned to that specific frequency, just started highlighting them. Your focus didn't create the cars, but it dramatically changed your perceived reality of them. The world didn't change, your access to it did. This is the bridge, where your attention goes, your energy flows. By consciously directing your attention toward your goals, toward the person you want to become, you are priming your brain to notice the people, resources, and pathways that were always there, but were previously invisible to you. Attention doesn't create reality out of nothing. It selects which version of reality you repeatedly step into. You start to spot the coincidences that aren't really coincidences at all. What feels like luck is often just awareness catching up. This brings us to the power of the Hawthorne effect. When you turn that observational power inward, you become your own researcher. You put your own habits, your negative self-talk, your automatic reactions under observation. And just like the workers in that factory, the moment you become aware of a pattern, you are no longer a slave to it. Awareness creates a pause, and that pause is where choice lives. Awareness creates a tiny gap between a trigger and a reaction. And in that gap lies your power to choose a different path. This is not control, it's clarity. The great physicist John Wheeler pointed toward this with his mind-bending idea of a participatory universe. He argued that we aren't just passive onlookers. He proposed that through our acts of observation and measurement, we are participants in bringing the universe into being, he once wrote. No elementary phenomenon is a phenomenon until it is a registered phenomenon. In other words, reality doesn't fully arrive until it is noticed. While he was talking about the quantum level, The philosophical implication is staggering. Reality requires a participant. You are not just a witness to your life, you are a co-creator of your experience. Not by forcing outcomes, but by shaping what you consistently engage with. Okay, so understanding this is one thing. Using it is what matters. How do we turn this big idea into a practical, everyday tool? Here are 3 simple but profound techniques you can start using today. Not to control your life, but to relate to it differently. Tool 1. The practice of mindful awareness. The most direct way to use the observer effect is through mindfulness. It's simply the practice of paying attention to the present moment, your thoughts, feelings, your body, the world around you, without judging any of it. It's self-observation in its purest form. Think of it as turning the lights on inside your own experience. When you feel a wave of anger, the autopilot reacts. But the mindful observer notices. You feel the heat in your chest, the tension in your jaw. You watch the angry thoughts swirl by like clouds. By just observing the emotion, you separate yourself from it. You are no longer fused with the reaction, you are in relationship with it. You are no longer angry. You are the one who is aware of anger. And in that awareness, the emotion's grip on you loosens. Awareness doesn't suppress the emotion. It allows it to complete its cycle without hijacking your behavior. The neuroscience here is fascinating. Studies show mindfulness can literally change your brain structure, calming down the amygdala, the brain's alarm center, while strengthening connections to your prefrontal cortex, which handles self-control and smart decisions. In simple terms, you're training your brain to pause before it reacts. Try this. For just 2 minutes a day, sit and do nothing but observe your breath. Don't change it. Just notice the feeling of air coming in and going out. When your mind wanders, and it will gently, without beating yourself up, just guide it back to the breath. This isn't about being calm. It's about noticing when you're not and staying present anyway. You're training your attention muscle. You're learning to be the calm observer in the middle of the storm. Tool 2, the observer's journey. Remember how the factory workers changed because researchers were tracking their output. You can create the same effect for yourself with a simple notebook. This isn't a Dear Diary entry. It's a focused log of observation. You are not judging your behavior. You are studying it. Pick one habit you want to change or build. Just one. Maybe you want to stop procrastinating, drink more water, or be more present with your family. One variable, one spotlight, that's enough. Each day, just make a note of when you did it and when you didn't. No guilt, no shame, just the data. Procrastinated from 9 to 11 a.m. by scrolling social media. Drank a glass of water with every meal today. Put my phone away during dinner. Facts over feelings, patterns over stories. This act of tracking is surprisingly powerful. Just knowing you'll have to report to your journal later makes you more conscious in the moment. It shines a spotlight on your choices. Awareness introduces accountability without punishment. You'll start to see the triggers that lead to procrastination. You'll find yourself reaching for water more often. The simple act of observation starts steering your behavior, often without any other brute force effort. Change happens not through pressure, but through clarity. Tool 3, the focus filter. Remember the new car effect? We can use that on purpose. This is a technique for actively curating the reality you perceive. You are teaching your mind what deserves your attention. For the next 7 days, choose one positive thing you want to see more of. It could be anything: opportunities, moments of beauty, acts of kindness, reasons to be grateful. Choose something gentle, not aspirational. Your only job for that week is to be a detective for that one thing. At the end of each day, write down 3 examples you spotted. A stranger held the door for me. Saw an amazing sunset on my way home. My colleague gave me some helpful feedback. Small signals matter. That's how the filter learns. You're not trying to manifest these things from nothing. You're training your brain's filtering system, your RAS, to find them. You're telling your own consciousness what you consider important. And your mind will start to prioritize that information. Attention is how priorities are programmed. After a week of actively looking for kindness, your world will feel kinder. After a week of looking for opportunities, your world will feel full of potential. You haven't changed the world itself, but you have completely rewritten your experience of it. And over time, that shift in experience quietly reshapes who you become. You are not just a passenger in this universe. By observing your own mind, you can calm it. By observing your habits, you can change them. By observing your reality with a new filter, you can transform it. You are not just the observed. You are, and have always been, the observer. So, the question isn't if you are rewriting your reality. You already are. The only real question is now that you know you're holding the pen. What story will you choose to write? Let me know in the comments. What is one thing you are going to start consciously observing in your life, starting today? Thank you for spending this time with me. If this video sparked something in you, give it a like and maybe share it with someone who needs to hear this. And don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into science, consciousness, and what we are capable of. Until next time, be aware.